Well, thanks very much for coming, everyone. I'm just very quickly going to make you a co-host again, Chris, so you've got full control should you need to. That's okay. I trust you to behave. Get that note back up. So I mentioned transformation reports last month. This is actually the slide from last month. Gives you a whole load of bits of information, really useful little tools just to give you a view of where you're at. The window's open twice a year. You get a 2-month window to go back in there and update your report so you can see over time how you are improving as you go along. There we go. So just a reminder that it's still there, and this window closes on the 26th of July. So if it's a tool you're thinking you might want to use, then you can definitely go in and still use it. You can get multiple people to contribute to the report. The first report is just about, putting all the information in there, and they'll give you a nice little dashboard back to show you what it tells you. But in 6 months' time, when the next window opens and you can then update, then you can actually start to monitor and track your progress. So it's a great little tool for that. So it's definitely one to look out for. But it does close the 26th of July, and then it closes until there. So quick question of what you find. You get asked to fill out a survey that under a series of headings, which you can see on the left of my slide there, about their vision, about what your learning approach is, about the culture, and so on and so forth. And what you get out of it is you get things like usage reports about what percentage of your usage is on the various different things, and then you get links to, if you're not using Google Slides at all or a tiny amount, they'll give you links to the help stuff on the EDU website to say, here's some support material to help you get the best out of Google Slides, for example. It gives you usage about people. It tells you certificates about who's passed your level 1, level 2s. Interestingly, Dave Leonard said this when I first mentioned this window was open, that what it doesn't give you, he doesn't give you who's passed those exams. So it's handy to know that you've got a certain number. And of course, if they don't use their official domain email, then you won't know. If they've used a personal email to register to do the test, then you won't know, of course. But it's only those that use your proper email. But it just gives you some information, and it references the 4 C's based on your responses from last month and update responses from this month and so on and so forth. So it's definitely one that's worth looking at. It's completely free, so you can go and have a route and then see whether you think it's worth it. Yeah, but the link is in the slide deck, Karen, so you'll get the link to the slide deck. If you want to talk about it, about how you might use it, by all means, just drop me a note or Chris a note, and we'll arrange a bit of time to talk through it in a bit more detail. So that's transformation report. Okay, so this is the Techy Tuesday one now. So all the updates for the end user was yesterday, and that's currently processing. So that will be up on the YouTube channel by the end of today. So you can go to that, and Chris will send it out with the slide deck and when they're both processed. So the first one is context-aware remediation. So if for some reason you've got a rule in place that prevents a user doing something, there are some things that you can do in order to allow them to work it out for themselves. So let's take an example. Let's say, for example, you've insisted that they've got to be working on an official device that's your device, or a device, because your device has got a certain security level. You know that it's secure, it's got the filters in, it's got all the various settings in the admin panel on, so that device is safe to use, and they try and log in with a device that's not owned by you, then they'll get a message saying that you can't sign in on this one, go and use an official school device, and that will prompt them. Yeah, it might be that you don't allow them to log in if they're not in the UK. Yeah, it might be that you don't allow them to log in with, you only allow them to log in with specific IP addresses, for example. So there's a number of different rules that you can apply, and if they try and log in to a device that doesn't follow that rule, then they'll get a message saying, here's what you need to do. If they then follow those rules, then they can log on. That's fine. So that doesn't mean that every single time they've got to come to you. It just means that there are some routes through that allow them to sort it for themselves, which is kind of quite handy. So that's remediation for logons. Second one is discoverable spaces in Google Chat. You've been able to, since 2 months ago, I think now, be able to make chat groups using the APIs in the admin panel, so you could create them centrally if you wanted to. What you can now do is you can actually start to create target audiences, and then you can see on the little image in the middle, when the person's made the group, they can actually specify who's actually got access to that, and anyone who can get in there. And you can be quite specific. So if this was, I don't know, your finance team, they can actually say finance team. They call it target audience A, but it could be finance team, for example. So you can restrict who can and can't join particular spaces within your domain, which seems to me a really useful thing. Worth noting that is Education Plus only, though. So that option to create those target groups that you can use as a drop down to specify who doesn't have access is Education Plus only. It just gives you an extra level of security in those spaces. I'll flip over this very quickly. Virus total is something that when we first mentioned this a little couple of months ago, I think, no one was using. I think that probably is still the case. But you've got a deeper insight into your Chrome events now with this, should you want to. So more of the Chrome log events that happen. If you've got virus total, that's integrated into your admin panel. You can see on the image there's a little link to the virus total report, which will give you a little bit more detail than the standard reports. So it's only if you use virus total, and it's Education Standard and Education Plus. And I suspect from the response originally that it's probably a US company and not particularly used here very much. And that the Chrome events adds into the Google Gmail events that were already in place for the virus total tool from the last announcement we made 2 months ago, I think it was. Okay, I think this one, if you are using Google Voice, could be a very significant, useful addition. And it's the option to record phone calls. And you know when you're on, you're waiting, your call is important to us. You are 47th in the queue. And they'll often say, all our calls are recorded for training purposes. It seems to me that if you know you've got a difficult conversation to have with someone, then you can also record it there. You do need to be aware, and Dave Lender was very helpful with this yesterday. Thanks, Dave, if he's on the call, reminding me that you actually everyone gets told that the call is being recorded. But being able to record awkward conversations where you feel the need for evidence after the event might actually be a very useful thing to have. Then you can set it in the admin panel that all calls are recorded, and then there's an automated message that everyone gets, or you can set it that the individual user can initiate the recording for themselves should they choose to. So you've got some control within the admin panel to be able to do that. But of course, only people who subscribe to Google Voice does that apply to, of course. So when you do a security investigation within the admin panel, you've now got the option, as well as exporting it in Google Sheets, you can also export it as a CSV. Just gives you other options if there's a particular reason you would want that. If it's going to be pushed into Excel, for example, that might well be an easier way to do it. Okay, so that's nice and simple. That's not a significant change. You could already do it to Google Sheets, and I can do it to both. I mentioned this one yesterday because the end user might well see this. So if you've got someone attempting to upload a document up into an external form, so for another company or for another school, if you've got data loss protection rules in place that say that particular document can't be uploaded, then they'll get a message saying they won't be able to do it. Okay, so you can allow people to upload files to external forms as long as you've got your data loss protection rules in place, preventing them from doing that. So that's actually a really neat little thing. And the uploading files is kind of really useful little tools. It might be photographic evidence, of a certificate if they're applying for a particular course where they need to show they've got the basic certificate before they can go to do the advanced or whatever it happens to be. So there's all sorts of reasons when they might well be uploading forms, both staff and students potentially. But for you to be able to monitor those, so if you flagged some documents as containing sensitive personal data, then you can say, well, anything that does, then we prevent them uploading. If it's got financial information, for example, then you prevent it uploading and things. And don't forget, a few months ago, the labels option came out I think it's Education Plus and Standard only, right? But you're actually with I lost my track now because I heard the bleep. Where was I talking? Oh yeah, if you add labels to documents, you can write data loss prevention rules that say if this label is applied, then apply this rule. So it gives you it's a really, really useful tool. And schools, if you're not currently using them, they are definitely something that you need to be looking at in some detail about how do you protect the data, because it's the easiest thing in the world to let data slip out of your domain. I think financial information. Yeah, and don't forget that when you set the rule with data loss protection rules, you can say, here's a standard format. Let me think of an example. National insurance number. So if you go to the UK Ready Set rules, there will be a standard format for national insurance numbers. So you can say, if the document contains any national insurance numbers, that is sensitive personal information. So I will not be handing that. I will not allow that to be shared outside the organization. I will not allow it to be uploaded to this file. So it scans the documents according to kind of preset rules of, sort of financial information and personal information and so on and so forth. So this is, I think I've said that enough. Yeah, if you're not using data loss protection rules, then you start to use them because they are really useful. They will make a huge amount. With the late Cam, that's a really good question. With the labels, it came out a couple of months ago, so I'm running from memory here. Yeah, yes, you can set them up, and you can set up rules in the admin panel to automatically apply them if you've got the right paid license for Google Workspace, and you can also force the end user to apply them, if I remember rightly. I'll double check that, Karen. And maybe we should just jump on a call. I'll do a bit of homework and remind myself of the fine detail of that. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, the admin can preset and pre-apply, force them to be applied to documents. So all documents are scanned. If it finds financial information, it'll apply the financial information label and so on and so forth. And you can also set it that the users have to set labels. So you'd probably set it that students wouldn't, but staff would. That'd probably be my kind of gut without too much thought about it, because they might well be dealing with documents that you don't want to be shared more widely, whereas students is just going to be their coursework, isn't it? So that's the data loss prevention rules, and you're going to prevent people uploading to Google Forms. Okay, I've done that. I've hidden that twice. The reason I think I probably copied it in because I've forgotten to add in the labels. Education fundamentals, it's there. Interestingly, it did specifically list that teaching and learning is not in the list that applies to. And I don't quite know why, when fundamentals is there, that they're not giving it to teaching and learning. But I remember thinking that's odd that they've actively said not teaching and learning upgrade, only those 3 versions of Google Workspace. Okay, so those of you who are admins, and hopefully most of you are today, you will be already aware that there are a whole load of alerts that you are getting. I'll come to you in a moment, James. And this is just a new list of more alerts that you're getting, specifically about things like changes to the primary admin. So anyone who's a super admin, if any changes happen to their account, you'll get a notification. Any single sign-on stuff where a third party has been enabled or added, or updated information on so on and so forth. Any password resets for super admins. James, did you want to say something?
Yeah, on that last one, it doesn't matter about teaching and learning because of its fundamentals. That will cover the teaching and learning as well, because the teaching and learning are just licenses on top of the fundamentals.
Oh, right. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. That's why it wasn't. It was because it expressly said it wasn't in the list, and that kind of confused me. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. So this is just more alerts, and really useful alerts that, if these kind of things, third parties are using single sign-on for your organization, it's handy for you to know those things are happening. So if someone's using their work email to, organize a single sign-on for an app that's not in an approved list, for example, then it'd be handy for you to know that that was the case. So it just allows you to keep up to date with those things, and you'll get those as alerts. So client-side encryption now is available for Google Drive for desktop on Windows and on Macs. So you can update your client-side configuration to include Drive for desktop. And when it's enabled, it means users can synchronize their Google Drive docs, sheets, and slides, all the documents they need to, with their Drive for desktop, on Windows or on Mac. Okay, so it just means that you've got a higher level of security there for that, and they appear as links, as shortcuts rather in Windows, and links, symbolic links on Macs, and that's just a little screenshot on a Windows device. So you can specify which ones are updated, and you can sync them into the Drive sync. Drive for desktop is a sync tool, basically. So it syncs your Google Drive onto your Windows or onto your Mac. So it basically just gives you a kind of a window that shows you your Google Drive and allows you to sync the two together. But you can now keep the encryption in place for those two now. It wasn't the place before. And just to alert you, bottom left, Education Standard and Education Plus only, and our license holders, of course, for those two things. Okay, those are the admin updates. Any questions about any of those? I can see a little blue dot, so I'll come to see if there are any questions. It might be that I've covered them as I was going along. So that if you do the so we'll book a time, Karen, to look at labels, because I think they're really useful tools. Okay. Any questions about any of those things? Anything that's anyone's not asked? Everyone happy? Okay, good.